In ancient times, in the days of the hunter-gatherer, a warrior was one who fought for the tribe and for the family. The first order of survival was food, clothing, and shelter. Sustenance was obtained from the forest by foraging and from the field by hunting. With the coming of agriculture, people ceased a nomadic existence and began to settle down to grow their own food and raise their own livestock. They stopped or slowed their foraging and hunting. Growing their own food meant that they were no longer dependent on what the forest and field could provide. More food also meant more people, which led to the first villages and then to the first cities. On the other hand, agriculture required staying in the same place for long periods of time to tend the fields. Being in a fixed location meant being vulnerable. Other tribes could come and take your harvest if you lacked defenses. This meant that the role of the warrior changed from part-time defender of the tribe to a full-time profession, giving rise to the first armies. Thus the role of warrior shifted from protector of family and tribe to protector of village and city. As cities grew, tribal chieftains became kings and emperors, and the role of the warrior grew further and further from its original purpose of keeping the family and the tribe safe. The allegiance of the warrior shifted to that of defender of the king. This cultural shift remains in our genetic memory in tales like those of the Vanir, Norse gods of the hunter-gatherers, and the Asir, their warrior counterparts. In hunter-gatherer societies worldwide, animism was the most common form of spirituality. Animism is the belief that everything is alive. Everything possesses a spiritual essence. In animism, rocks, trees, plants, sacred places, weather, seasons, and sometimes even words contain life energy. It's a worldview that understands the basic unity of all things, and it's a natural result of living close to nature. Hunter-gatherers were dependent on the whims of nature for survival. The migration patterns of herds, the seasonal rains, and the knowledge of what plants to gather and when made them deeply aware of their natural environment, and their spirituality reflected this knowledge. A spiritual warrior in such a society would understand the fundamental interconnectedness of all things, and would develop a warrior code based on this knowledge. Such a code is necessarily involved with the good of the whole tribe. As the city-states rose, and the role of the warrior moved from defender of the tribe to defender of the king, the warrior code also shifted. This warrior code emphasized tales of braveness, chivalry, and heroism. The warrior way became more about individual achievements for king and country than for the good of the tribe. In this way, warriors became soldiers. The essential difference between a warrior and a soldier can be summed up in this way. A soldier does what he's told, no matter what's right, and a warrior does what's right, no matter what he is told. So how is a warrior spiritual? The fundamental essence of spirituality is about connection. It could be connection to others, connection to nature, connection to self, or connection to the divine. So a spiritual warrior will be one who uses the skills of his craft to bring others closer together instead of driving them apart. Such a warrior fights to unite instead of fighting to divide. Most Aboriginal cultures practice some form of animism. Their spirituality was about connection to nature, to sacred spaces, and to the tribe. With the rise of Christianity across the world, animistic cultures were gradually usurped in favor of the dogmas of the church. While animistic cultures see the divine manifest in every rock, tree, and living thing, Christianity places the divine outside of our realm. In Christianity, God is elsewhere, dwelling beyond space and time in a faraway heaven. If yours is the way of the spiritual warrior, you can see how these two conflicting worldviews would have a great impact on what it means to walk the warrior path. This brings us to mysticism and what it means to be a mystic. What is the nature of the divine? Is there a God? If so, wouldn't that God be beyond human understanding? If it weren't, how could it be a God? To a mystic, if God is unknowable, then the moment you make claims about God, you are no longer talking about God. From a certain point of view, mysticism isn't concerned about whether or not gods or divinity or the supernatural are real. What matters is the utility of the mystic experience. Is the experience itself real? Does the experience itself have anything to teach? If so, it's irrelevant whether or not the experience was caused by any sort of divine entity. This is the essence of mysticism. In contemporary times, our spirituality has abandoned us. For many of us spiritual seekers, the Christian path is empty because it lacks what mystics need in their lives: meaningful contact with the deeper mysteries of life. In today's world, the source has become more important than the teaching. For most, trying to find spiritual sustenance in the Abrahamic faiths is like trying to point out the moon to a dog. No matter how hard you point, the dog just stares at your finger. The path of the warrior mystic is the path that restores honor to the way of the warrior while seeking the divine inspiration of the mystical. It's the way of the contemporary shaman. Although the Crusades and the Inquisition destroyed much of the European shamanic heritage, there are still tantalizing hints of what our ancestors believed. All across the world, we are now piecing together a new shamanism from the ashes of the old. When we are done, we will have recreated the path of the warrior mystic.